Hi everyone, and welcome to our third and final video about converting fractions to decimals. This time we are talking about when we don't have an equivalent fraction with a denominator of 10 or 100 or 1000. So what we're actually looking at is how we can rethink of a fraction as a division equation in itself. So if we look at the fraction on the board, here we've got half. It's the one that we are most common, that we're most familiar with. We see it everywhere. We talk about it even as toddlers. So we have a good understanding of what half is. We need to now think about how our vinculum, that's our little line in the middle there, is its own division sign. So we're saying 1 divided by 2. So let's put that into a bit of perspective with a rectangle. So let's pretend this is a chocolate bar. We've got 1 chocolate bar and we are going to be dividing that into 2 equal parts. So let's split straight down the middle here. It's not quite perfect, but it gets the job done. So we've got 1 divided by 2 equals half, and that is half of the chocolate bar. So when we start to think of a fraction as a division equation, we can really start to see how our division symbol here, or it's called an obelisk, actually looks like a fraction. So we have our numerator is the dot on the top, the vinculum in the middle, and the denominator at the bottom. So we're going to use this information to now work out how we can convert some fractions to decimals when we do not have a denominator of 10, 100, or 1000. So here let's have a look at 2/7. So what we are going to be doing is saying that this fraction is 2 divided by 7. And let's have a go at doing that. Now I'm making a very long equation here because we've got 7, it seems pretty small, so we've got 2, it seems pretty small, but I'm going to add lots of zeros to the end because I know that it will not go in easily. And I'm dividing it into 7 equal parts. We're going to start out, how many times does 7 go into 2? It goes in 0 times. I'll keep my decimal point in the right spot. So it went in 0 times with 2 left over. How many times does 7 go into 20? It goes in 2 times and I have 6 left over. 7 goes into 60 8 times and I have 4 left over. 7 goes into 40 5 times with 5 left over. 7 goes into 50 7 times with 1 left over. 7 goes into 10 once with 3 left over. And 7 goes into 30 4 times with 2 left over. Because I've got that 2 here representing 20, which is where we started, what I now can see is that that's now going to continue and will show the same 6 numbers there over and over again. So I'm going to cut it there and say that 2 divided by 7 is 0.285714. It's not the easiest decimal to work with, but that's the way it is when it comes to some fractions that do have some numbers, especially prime numbers, as our denominator. We're going to look at a different example here. We've got 1/6. Here we're going to do the same thing. We are saying I've got 1 and I'm dividing it by 6. So once again, I'll draw out my division and I'm going to say how many times does 6 go into 1? It goes in 0 times, but I've got 1 left over. How many times does 6 go into 10? It goes in once with 4 left over. 6 goes into 40 6 times and it has 4 left over. I can see that there's going to be a pattern starting now. 6 goes into 40 6 times and there will be 4 left over again. So this will continue each time saying 6, 6, 6, 6, 6. So what we are going to say is that 1 divided by 6 is 0.166, and I'm going to put a dot there meaning repeating. So that 6 will repeat forever and ever and ever. So 1 divided by 6, or 1/6 as a decimal, is 0.166. If you think that division's a bit tricky for you, you might find that you'll prefer to do this with a calculator. That's normally okay unless your teacher says that you're not allowed to use a calculator to do this particular skill. But it's good to know that when we're talking about a fraction, it really is just its own little division equation. So I hope that that makes a little bit of sense to you and that you'll be able to go and have a go at doing that by yourself. Enjoy. Thanks.